I'm here to share my passion as a storyteller by answering one question. How do you tell thousands of stories from a vast continent in a confined space? There are thousands, millions, if not billions of stories out there. And as storytellers, and of course those that fund us, we determine whose are told and how they're told. In other words, we determine what you see and what you hear. Now, in the news and factual television world that I come from, the general default button is KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And what that means is we rush out, we get 20-second clips of people talking, we get a few pictures, and we rush back and we try and meet our deadlines. And of course, meet our budgets. And the result is what I call the wide-angle lens, which I believe has a direct impact on all of our lives. Take this West African voodoo ceremony. Now, the wide angle of this is there's a woman, she is possessed after animals were slaughtered in her deity's honor. Now, what this does is make us see her as something foreign, weird, possibly even threatening, making her completely the other. In fact, her entire community, the other, completely and utterly disconnected and separate from us. But there's always another truth in what I call the close-up that tells a very different story. In the close-up, this young man is a West African voodoo prince. So you've looked at this wide angle where you actually see something other and disconnected from you. But here in this picture, this is the first voodoo prince to attend university, to study law, to go and challenge how Hollywood has falsely represented his people and his ancient religion, which he says is the origin of all religions in the world. What about another wide angle, Jinn, and the pain of losing her only daughter in an African People's Liberation Army attack in 1990 in Cape Town? Letlapa gave the orders that resulted in the death of her daughter as well as 49 other people. It was also something that Letlapa refused to apologize for because he said he was fighting a war.
He understood me, other people were wincing and they couldn't understand these terrorists.
I saw the remorse in his eyes, in his body language. And you can't describe that. And he describes it as a restoration of his humanity.
Something was restored inside me.
Today they are friends and are working together to heal others. So you have a wide angle of a killer and a mother who's lost her only daughter. But in the close-up, they actually work together in a foundation in her daughter's name called the Lindy Faree Foundation that is spreading an incredible message how forgiveness can break the cycles of violence and actually restore all of our humanity. What about the wide angle here? This is a group of young women and young girls standing in a line, waiting to find out if they're virgins or not. Now, in many of our eyes, we would see this as a serious human rights abuse, something that needs to be challenged, if not punished. But have you ever thought about in the close-up what it means for a mother? What does it mean for a family or a community who actually are celebrating that their daughters are free and safe from HIV? This particular community had reclaimed this ancient custom because so many, if you had seen the graveyards of their young people having died from AIDS. Here's another wide angle, Rwanda genocide 1994, and the brutal and tragic death of more than 800,000 people. Now, of course, in the wide angle, in fact, this children's home, many of these children, there just wasn't enough space. And the tragedy was that it really looked pretty certain that many of them would actually starve to death. So those are the messages you get in the wide angle. But in the close-up, you would find someone like Toto, who's just been handed over to foster parents. Now, the huge challenge actually was that these could have been the very same people that killed his parents during the genocide. It was a terrifying decision for the government, but they felt they had absolutely no choice. but incredibly and inspirationally, is that these foster parents became some of the greatest symbols of reconciliation in Rwanda. But this, exactly the same applies to the vast continent of Africa between the close-up and the wide angle. Of course, the wide angle on Africa, 1 billion people, 54 countries, is often seen as dark, scary, diseased, poverty-stricken, corrupt. I'm sure we've all got lots of others, you know, dangerous place. Take a look at a few of the clips or interviews, clips when I spoke to a librarian and children at a zoo in Poland.
No mi się cały czas kojarzy Afryka jako no półdziki świat. Polska jednak jest bardziej cywilizowana.
Gorzej mi się tam mieszka, mają cieplej.
Żyją w takich domkach bardzo fajnych. Są niezbyt bogaci.
Nie muszą być zębów, mają takie białe.
But of course there's a close-up to this wide angle too. And it was vegetable sellers like this man who was only like 2 roads down from the librarian who said there's absolutely no difference between Africa and Poland. In fact, we are all facing the same huge challenges around unemployment and poverty. But it's not just the rest of the world looking at Africa through this wide-angle lens. Many South Africans use exactly or very similar perceptions about the rest of the continent, especially, of course, places like Nigeria. We've just arrived in Nigeria. Behind me you can see Lagos, one of the many states that we'll be visiting. We're here to have a look at what the country has to offer a tourist. Many of our perceptions are based on books like this one, like The Lonely Planet, that use words like shambles, volatile, chaotic, and even violent to describe this country.
Only negative information, yes. And on the official American side, it was like, if you came to Nigeria, you're going to die, and something like this, but it's not true.
I think tourists should come here. There are beautiful places to see.
Yeah. I love the art, I love the vendors.
The people are very friendly here.
It's a wonderful place for those that haven't been. But the wide angle always, well, it actually has to be challenged. And as a result of all my travels across the continent, this was obviously one of my passions. So I really went in search of a place where I could tell a story that would challenge all of these wide-angle perceptions we hold. So what I was looking for a place to tell 1,000 stories from our vast continent in one space. And I found it in Africa's tallest apartment building, downtown Johannesburg. As was said, the tallest apartment building in Africa. And it was probably the most scary place in terms of the wide angle I'd ever been in. Everyone said, this is where you're going to die. You know, I'd traveled the entire continent. And at the time, there were 4,400 people living there from every corner of the continent. And incredibly, it was seen in exactly the way Africa is seen through the wide angle. Dark, scary, and of course dangerous. But once again, in the close-up, a completely different story.
I'm from DRC. I'm from Uganda.
Congo. Mozambique. I'm from Burundi. In the Free State Falcon. From Ghana.
I'm from Malawi.
Zimbabwe. Bulawayo.
Nigeria. I'm from Angola. Oh, no.
Uganda.
It was a celebration of Africa living under one roof. It was like going anywhere on the continent. Kigali, Lagos, Nairobi. In fact, it was liberating at what many people called the building of the Organization of African Unity. It resulted in an award-winning documentary called Africa Shafted Under One Roof. And this was after I spent 2.5 years in the lifts in my spare time, as it was a passion project. And I chose the lift because something incredible happened. It actually created equality between all people. Suddenly, viewers were forced to interact with people face to face in a really intimate way, very far away from their wide-angle assumptions, stereotypes, and prejudice. It was seen in more than 20, and it continues to be seen, but 20 countries in the world, and there is no doubt that it has challenged people's notion that Africa is disconnected and separate. I want to share a few clips of some of the stereotypes it has actually challenged, but more specifically I've chosen ones for a more South African audience. So of course we've got a Ponte that we all say a building full of criminals.
If your brother is a waiter, you come here, you join your brother who is a waiter. But if you come here, your brother is a criminal, you join your brother who is a criminal. I work as a waiter.
So many wonderful people with dreams, ambitions, and hopes, like every single one of us, and with incredible wisdom to share. Here's another one, which I often hear. Nigerians are everywhere.
Miami is up.
Yeah.
Now we're down in
to South Africa.
Oh, South Africa.
No, we're just passing Nigeria now.
No, because they're full here. The whole building is there. So we're just passing Nigeria.
Police in Kenya, Zaire, Somaliland, they all call them Nigerians. I don't know why it's like that. They don't differentiate us.
More misconceptions. What about that one that all Nigerians are drug lords? 150 million people in one box, right? Another one, all African men are conservative.
Well, I went through to my wife's school. I act as a model when her sister's not available. She does her facials on me, she practices on me, massage skills and facials.
Of course the wide angles were there too, but the close-ups challenged just about every stereotype. The filming stopped just before the brutal and tragic death, xenophobic attacks in South Africa in 2008. And definitely the wide angle that was spread was that all South Africans were xenophobic. Take a look at this clip and do note that everyone in it is South African.
I will get inside. As at the left, I've got no problem. It's only you find the residents, they kick in these doors.
It's only silly people who do not know how to live in good places. I think it's the foreigners that they are destroying this place. They are here to destroy.
I've never seen them doing that. See, I can't put a finger to somebody else. Until then, I've got a proof that that person has done that thing.
In the building, it really was a minority, and majority of the xenophobic attitudes were coming from young South African men who came from mostly rural areas. And in fact, they actually felt more foreign than the people in the building. They felt way less educated. They felt like they had way less opportunities. And on the whole, they felt really threatened. In fact, it also reminds me when one of the residents took a copy home to Zimbabwe to show his family, and his family was really worried that he was going to come back to South Africa until they sat and watched Africa charge, and they were just relieved. Go back, they're not all xenophobic. But I believe we can all see these wide angles differently. And quite honestly, sometimes all it takes is one conversation and really being open enough.
Malawi is just a good country, as all these other countries, and a peaceful country for that matter.
I don't like Malawi.
You know, here in Africa, there is only one country that is called the warm heart of Africa.
Oh, I see. I saw in the TV that Malawi is a poor country.
I'm not pretty sure. Maybe according to his knowledge.
I don't travel. This is first journey to Johannesburg.
It's called the warm heart of Africa because of the people, with their heart, their kindred heart. They welcome everybody.
Which means I like Malawi. I would like Malawi nowadays.
I spoke to this young man afterwards, and he said, I want more information about Malawi. I believe we should all want more than the wide angle. I think we should go in search of the close-ups, the personal and intimate close-ups that I believe can enrich all of our lives. It's really why my next passion project is to use exactly the same approach and zoom into the tallest buildings, residential buildings on 6 continents, and of course in their lifts, under one roof. We'll use exactly the same approach from Johannesburg to Camerapix to Queensland, to Moscow, to Chicago, to Dubai, to try and create a common understanding of each other and a close-up on our common humanity as global citizens. But this is going to be my next journey, and I hope I can ask you to think about yours, because I believe that we all have the power to lift ourselves and each other if we practice this immense ability we have to zoom into the close-ups that surround us every single day, that we actually boldly step over the wide angles that divide us. And because it really is one of the most powerful tools that we have to create with a world without the illusion that we're disconnected and that we are separate. A world that celebrates our understanding, our respect, and our appreciation of each other. A world I believe we'd all want to live in. Thank you very much.